that song, you know that sound, that means it's the weekend, and as always, it's time for the James Freel Show. I am your host, James Freel, and as always, I am very happy to have you with me. I am back in Cleveland today, and I took a trip home for the weekend, but I've got the same arrangement, and I'm cutting it pretty close, just like last week, where it's the latest I've ever uploaded these, doing it Sunday night. Which it doesn't really matter. It might be a little weird transitioning back if I ever want to do it on a Friday again, because I mean at that point I've only had like 4 solid days between each of them. Um, so how much? I don't know. I can't hear the music right now. Sorry, I think you might be able to hear the neighbors next door. Let me make sure this door is closed all the way. Um, yeah, I think you can hear my neighbors, but hopefully it's not loud enough to where you can hear anything. I had an eventful week, and I think I have a pretty good show for you coming up. Actually wrote things down, unlike normal. I've got 2 laptops in front of me right now, because I realized last time if I try to type with the other one, it just won't work out. So let's see what we got here. Before I get to the rambling section, let's go ahead and get started with news for the uninformed. So, top news stories now. Let's see what we got here. Breaking news. I don't know. Let's just go to the New York Times homepage. That's normally what I end up doing. Oh. Well, that's good for that. Buttigieg announces official start to 2020 campaign. The presidential bid of Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, has an unlikely early focus of attention from Democratic voters. A 37-year-old Rhodes Scholar and war veteran, he would represent multiple firsts if elected, the youngest president and the first who is openly gay. Senator Kamala Harris of California discloses her tax returns. Bernie Sanders is accusing a liberal think tank close to the Clintons of smearing predictors. Okay. Mitch McConnell learns. Alright, those are op-eds. I don't know. Buttigieg, I don't know anything about politics, but he seems like a cool guy. I mean, I may not agree with him on everything, but he seems like a pretty intelligent guy. That's cool that he was a veteran and stuff. In sports, Tiger Woods wins the Masters in a triumph for the ages. Wood ended a championship drought of nearly 11 years, capturing his 5th Masters title and his 15th major tournament on Sunday. It was a monumental victory for Woods, 43, after... Oh, he's only 43? Wow, I thought he was older than that. After 4 back surgeries and nearly a decade of struggles on and off the golf course. I remember when that hit. That was like back in 2009, so that was like 10 years ago, and it was a pretty great comeback story. Yeah, I'm glad. I remember he was playing one dude. It was like one-on-one or something, and this was before the scandal happened, and I think they were having like a rematch or something, or maybe they tied, so they had to play a round or something. I don't know, but my brother and I were really into golf at the time, and there was this golf course we lived close to, and it was a very memorable sports moment because I went in, and I had golfed here before, and they had like this dining area, and it was normally pretty empty, but for some reason on this day, it was completely packed, and everyone was around one of those giant television sets that have a flat screen, but the back of it is huge. It looks like it would take like 2 or 3 movers to get it into your house and stuff. It was massive. And everyone was just huddled around, and everyone was staring and watching and seeing how it would go. You would have thought it was like WrestleMania in a bar full of people, but it was all these like accountant-looking people. And I met some cool guys there, and I was a young kid at the time. I was probably like 13 at the time, but that's a good memory I have. And in pop culture, Game of Thrones Season 8 is coming. Apparently, I think it's the last season. I have not started that show, but I am pretty confident that if I did, I would absolutely love it. Maybe at some point when it's completed, I'll get really into it. Yeah, I'm sure I'd really like it and everything. I just haven't gotten around to it. You need to watch some Netflix up here. It's like I said, it's one thing I learned about being up here is that it is terribly lonely. to be by yourself like this. But you know, you live and you learn. All right, that's going to be news for the uninformed for this week. I seem to have already jumped into talking about other stuff. But so yeah, I was in a class last week, and what I learned about this class was it was basically like your introduction to everything. A lot of the courses I'm going to take here is specifically tailored to different systems. The one I took last week was just it was just like a dabble of everything. It was basically learn about X-rays. So yeah, and I had a good time with it. There were certain days where I didn't feel like I had a big takeaway. Other days I felt like I learned more. But in retrospect, I'm feeling more and more comfortable with the equipment that I will be working with. And it's important to me that I get better because I got to make sure that these guys, the guys who hired me, made the right decision about picking me, and that easily could change. Being my first real job, there's pressure on me for that, so hey, you know, you win some, you lose some. How are the Mets doing this year? I got that game going on right now, and baseball is one of those sports where I can have it on in the background and it won't really distract me. Football is a different story, and I think so is hockey. Yesterday when I was at home, I was watching some of the Premier League soccer, and I was just rooting against Manchester because I think they're like one of the really good teams, and so it was like, yeah, let's see, let's just root for the underdog. It might make things a little interesting, but yeah, I don't know. How is the Columbus Blue Jackets? That's crazy. The other night I was watching this game, and the Columbus Blue Jackets were down 3-0, and apparently they came back and won it. I'm like, geez, holy crap! I like took no interest in that game after I saw how bad it was. I wish I would have stayed up and watched it. It sounds like it would have been worth it. Oh, okay, got that out of the way. So anyway, back to the class I'm taking. The teacher was an extremely wacky guy, and I was very fortunate. I think he was a great guy. Um, you know, it was a very laid back experience. The class is basically, you know, you get out of it whatever you're willing to put into it. And I'm determined to put in a little more this week because last week, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I put in as much effort as I would have liked to. Um, you know, what was kind of cool is at this class, I was just lucky. I'm from Cincinnati, and the training center just happens to be in Cleveland, and that's the only one in the entire uh, United States. There might be a few other ones, but that's the main one because there were people from Arizona, Texas, Minnesota, and there were a few guys who were local from around the area. Look at that, the Mets got guys in scoring position. Guy hits a double. But geez, I still do a lot of ums on this show. What was funny is I asked some of the guys like about Texas culture, what they have there, what that I don't have here, and what are the biggest culture shocks and everything. And they explained. I asked them about that gas station where you have a lot of where it's like a gas station, but you can also get a ton of barbecue. Learned a little bit about that. But what was really funny was he came up to me. He's like, "All right, so you're from around here?" And I said, "Well, I'm from Cincinnati, so I'm about 4 hours southwest." And oh, look at that! The inning is over. Leaving 2 men on base. What are you gonna do, New York? But I said, "Yeah, I'm from around here." And he said, "So what's White Castle like? Where do you got that around here?" And I didn't realize that White Castle wasn't from. They didn't have that in like Texas and Arizona. And I gotta tell, I was like, I'm sorry to disappoint you, man, but White Castle really isn't that good, in my humble opinion. Uh, what's the one burger place I still haven't tried? Shoot. Um, Crap. It's in the Big Lebowski when they're in the car. We should stop by In-N-Out Burger. That's it. And I've never been to one of those. gonna make the trip at some point to try it because it looks really good. I don't know if it can compete with Five Guys. This one dude, it is fun to argue with guys about burgers. I also think Culver's, for my money, is one of the best burgers you can get. I don't know. It depends on who makes it and everything. But yeah, I told him. I mean, White Castle, it's kind of like a McDonald's. If you don't have a really good one, then it's gonna be horrible. But even a really good White Castle, in my opinion, isn't that great. They're just, eh. It's food for when you're intoxicated. That's what it's good for. And that's about it. So I don't know. I told him, do with that info what you will. I wouldn't recommend going to one, but I mean, if you've never tried it, go for it. But that was kind of cool. I've never had someone come up and ask me about something where I've been, and I got to give my opinion. So there's that. The other thing about this hotel and class and the social aspect of it is that it has an open bar. And I don't want to say I went too heavy this week, but that's exactly what I did. And that's another reason why I'm going to avoid it this week, just because I think it contributed to me not providing enough effort. I wasn't hungover or anything, but I mean, going in with a little headache, it can detract and your mind can be on, oh, I'm going to do this tonight. That's something else I wanted to talk about. So I'm driving the other day, and I'm looking. I don't know if you learned in school the physics of driving and everything. They made us take that kind of thing. There's like the stop zone, the go zone, and the dilemma zone, and the overlap zone. I felt like I was in the dilemma zone where I couldn't make a right decision. The yellow light hit. I didn't know how long it was going to be timed. There was a car close behind me. I felt if I slammed on my brakes, I would have risked a collision with the people behind me. So I went, and I don't know, it was extremely close. I don't know whether or not the nose of my vehicle was in the intersection or not when the light turned red, but I think I might have, it may or may not have been. And I looked up and I see a camera. I'm like, crap, I hope that's not a red light camera, but aren't those illegal now or something? And I look it up, and apparently in the state of Ohio, they were ruled unconstitutional unless you have a police officer there to witness it. But then that ruling got overturned, so they're back up. Some communities didn't turn them back on because they're still very unpopular and face a lot of stipulations. Like the state is trying its best to make it disincentivize people from using them. But I look up this map, and I became as much of an expert as the internet can make you on these different cameras, because what I saw could not have been first off, this map showed where all the cameras were, and it wasn't a red light camera, it was a license plate reader, which apparently is used for traffic tracking to make sure all these vehicles are up to date with tags, trying to recover lost vehicles. So like if someone's driving a stolen vehicle and you know the plates, they can help locate it that way. But anyway, and I learned that red light cameras are not on top of it. They're always in boxes off to the side of the road. It's very rare that, and motion light cameras don't administer red light tickets, at least not yet. So hopefully that put my mind at ease, because I was in a company vehicle, and I really, really would like to avoid a circumstance in which I'm in a company vehicle and they're sending a ticket through it. That would make me look bad. So other than that, my trip up here has been alright, other than being unbearably lonely. This hotel, not only the hotel has a gym. When I got here last Sunday, I think I mentioned this last week, but the hotel gym was closed off, and I was like, darn it. And that was my whole plan. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not working out at all this week. But that game was in Mexico. I was watching the Reds and the Cardinals, and I saw that the Reds were technically the home team, but then I was like, well, that's obviously not the Reds stadium because they were batting last. And I'm like, well, shouldn't they be at home then? And that makes sense. But the place I was at, the Learning Center, it's huge. It's this campus. I'm not going to say who I work for, but the office building at its peak, like over 3,000 people worked there, and I'm there and I'm just not seeing anyone. There's like, it's like a ghost town, and they've sold off different aspects of it, and it's not because the company's doing poorly, they're just relocating due to laws and stuff, but listen to me talk like I know stuff. But basically, they use it as an education facility, but they have a gym there on site, which is what I used last week, and it wasn't bad. There was no one there, and it was the gym that I used was like in their original lobby area, which was kind of funny because it obviously had the staircase and everything where people would walk in, and I'm wondering how long ago it was that people were using it as a lobby, and who made the decision, well, we can put all this exercise equipment in here. But, it was a good place to work out. There are all these geese that were all around campus, and, it was, those geese are aggressive, the ones that are black, but have, like, the brownish tan, I don't know. They'll hiss at you. It's like, those birds you don't want to mess with those. Those will ruin your whole day. They also seem kind of dirty. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. They look, I mean, they're a wild animal, so if you touch it, you definitely want to wash your hands after. Which I don't know why anyone would want to touch it. But today I saw that the gym was still closed. Well, technically it said the pool was closed, but in order to get to the gym, you have to go through the pool. And I saw someone in there, and I'm like, well, maybe I can just walk to the gym. It doesn't say the gym was closed. And the elliptical in there gave me one heck of a workout. Like, I feel really good about what I got done. I was sweating way more, and the machine I used last week didn't make me sweat near as much. My heart rate was up high, and it was a different kind of workout. The elevation was different. It was kind of awkward and uncomfortable at first, but I think I'm going to use it throughout this whole week. It'll be more convenient, because this previous week I had just been showing up really early to work, and they had a shower there, but it wasn't quite clean, so yeah, I think I'm just going to use this hotel, and I really don't have an excuse for not using it every day, because once class is done, I've got quite a bit of time on my hands. It was kind of humorous. Earlier this week, I needed to get some Tylenol PM, and they're priced pretty expensive at those little gift shops or kiosks or whatever at the lobby entrance, and I was pretty tired, and I picked up some Tylenol PM because I had a bit of a headache, and I handed the dude. He said $4, and I handed him $5 and the pills. He's like, "Oh, sir, you can hold on to that. You're the one who needs it for the headache," which made me chuckle. It was a lot more funny in the situation that I just described than it is now. But yeah, it was just a comical back and forth. One thing I want to do here, I didn't do this last week, is order some room service. That's something I've never done at a hotel before. I would like to get a steak delivered up to my room. Like I said, it's something I've never done, and from what I hear, the steaks are pretty good. And one of the guys I met here said that their steak here is very good. So that'll relegation. I don't know what that means. Where was I going with this? What? Shoot. Anyway, I took the guy who said it very seriously, because when he said it was a great steak, he said it was the second best steak he's had next to the one that he makes himself. And I said lately, I've been doing a lot of steaks. I don't mean to brag, but I think my steak game is pretty good. And the fact that he makes his own tells me that maybe he and I have some sort of similar tastes on what's good and what's not. So there's a good chance this week I'm going to order that steak, and I might tell you about it on next week's episode if it turns out to be good. Just got okay, just a conversation back and forth. So, let's shoot. Anyway, moving on. So this past weekend I did come home. I would have had anyway. I had a chance of staying home. Oh, I went and saw a musical that I really enjoy, done by a high school. Uh, it's called The Wedding Singer, and it's based on the movie. I've never seen the movie, but I really like the soundtrack to it. Never seen the movie. Saw the show done, and it's got a great soundtrack. I mean, some of the songs are just a lot of fun, and it was great to get to see it. I hadn't seen it in probably 6 or 7 years, and I recognized some of the people who were playing the instruments. Uh, I had a great time at it. It definitely gave me. It was good enough that I got the post-show blues, and those are real. I heard people talking about that on The Office one time, which I'll admit I like that show. I don't think that's controversial. A lot of people like it. But I really think the day it's nothing's worse than when you're in a show and it's over. You seriously get the post-show blues after that. But after seeing a show, if a show's good enough, and I will admit, my critique of the show was a lot of the songs were done pretty slow, and it's a high energy show. It's the kind of show that you want to be punched in the face with, or it feels like it. Just a high energy. Sometimes the pacing of the dialogue and the tempos of the songs were just dragging a little bit, and the show took a long time, including intermission. It was 2.5 hours, and so I don't want to critique it because it was high schoolers. The show had really strong leads, but the supporting cast was not the best, and if you don't have a strong supporting cast for that show, it's going to suffer. But again, the leads were great. Hats off to them. I don't think there's any way anyone who was in that show would ever listen to this. But if you are, you did a great job. I want to continue to see if I'll go back to that school if you do it in the future. Do another show. Keep on picking shows like that because they're ones that you can get better with and they're fun for the high school crowd to be doing. Look it up. That's what I'm going to talk about. Something that I really like this week is that musical, The Wedding Singer. But anyway, so that's the original reason why I came back. Well, no, that's not the original, but it's one of the incentives I had to come back, other than, again, being unbearably lonely here. Another reason that I came back was because my mother got remarried 10 years ago today. Can you still hear me? Probably not. Not today. She got remarried 10 years ago, and so she's been married 10 years, and my family and my siblings and I decided to throw a surprise party for her. I think the party went pretty well, other than my cooking. So I wanted to make some really good burgers. Originally, I was thinking of doing steak, but I'm like, that's going to get too expensive. I can't be doing that. So I thought, okay, well, I've cooked burgers before. I think I do a pretty good job of it. Let me cook that, and I think we'll have a good time. I even looked up some videos on it, how to cook them. I was nervous about them being underdone, because I like my burger a little rare. Not rare, but like medium. So I was a little nervous about them being done that way, but I got all the fixings for it, like lettuce, tomato, onion, pickles, mayonnaise, ketchup, mustard, all that, cheddar cheese, American cheese, all that jazz. So I do it, and I run my test burger earlier that day. I'm trying to keep the house clean, and my parents' house, and they're like, "Oh, it's so nice of you to be doing this." And I really thought my parents were onto it. I thought she saw me cleaning, and so she assumed like, it's gonna be crazy. I don't know. She told me later this day that she was totally not onto it. But when they showed up, I got everyone's burgers order. There were 15. No, 13 total people there. And I got to catch up with an old friend, and later we watched some of those old high school videos of variety shows and whatnot. Shoot, what else? But I did the burgers, got everyone's order, and I realized slowly but surely I bit off more than I could chew with this, and I got pretty flustered about it. I was toasting all the hamburger buns in the oven. And I now realize why people do burgers outside and not inside. I even had the fan on for the stove, but the place steamed up pretty fast. I don't think it was smoke. But that I was doing 4 burgers at a time. I did a third of a pound burgers, and I really started becoming unglued, and they wound up not being as great as I really wanted them to be. And then I got into that weird dynamic because people could tell I was getting flustered, and they were like, saying, "No, they're really good." And I took a bite of one. I didn't make one myself because I just wanted to get the grill off as soon as possible so that the smoke could clear out, or the steam. I didn't do that when I ran my test burger. My test burger was great, but when I put 4 of those on the grill at the same time with a bunch of oil, stuff is gonna start going, and you just can't. If he swings, it's a strike. If it's not a strike, if he didn't swing. Sorry, I'm just reviewing a little modus tollens there. Yeah, that doesn't mean though. Yeah, that's cool stuff. Anyway. Yeah, it was a surprise and everything. Looking for a reef for our apartment. I was with my lady the other day, and yesterday before the surprise party, and she saw this reef that she really liked, and I knew it was so her. It was definitely something she would love, but at the same time, it's very feminine, and it's perfect for a girl's dorm room, but it would be perfect for her, and I could tell she loved it, but it wasn't perfect for us. It was just too feminine. So I feel bad. It was very expensive, though. I had some Skyline chili when I was out today. You got to throw that back, man. Come on, the opposing team hit the ball, and you caught it. You got to throw that back. What's his problem, man? I mean, I don't care if it was a young kid. I tell you what, when I have my son, I'm going to make sure he does. I don't know. Alright, so the New York Mets are up against the... They're my bandwagon team. That's sort of funny because they're not even that good, but I just selected them. It's mostly because I like their logo and I like their color scheme. And in elementary school, when we did fantasy baseball, it was like math baseball with statistics, and you made these little circles out of them. Why are you getting a photo with that ball? Throw it back. This kid's got an Atlanta hat on, and he's smiling for the camera. But no, don't do that. I know it's cool, but you gotta throw that back, man. I'm just saying. Anyway, I'm gonna play more video games this week. Yeah, that's something that a productive person who's doing well is gonna say. I need to be playing more video games this week. And that said, I've started the epilogue to Red Dead Redemption 2, and I didn't save it, so I've started that epilogue like 40 times, and it's really good, and I may have to restart it again because I didn't turn it off properly. I don't know if I got far enough to save. I've run up to Strawberry a million times and delivered these goods and all that jazz. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. The story is really, really cool. I don't want to spoil it in case one of the listeners who might be listening. I met some people from Salt Lake City also, and I don't know, it's nice people, nice temporary friends, and we even talked about that. There was also a dude from India who is here. I talked to him, and then just a week before I had met someone from Switzerland, so it's like I am a person of the universe. I'm being cultured. No, it is nice to meet people and just get different perspectives on things. They were both extremely friendly to me, and I hope I wasn't a dumb American in front of them. That's always a big goal. I think that's going to be the podcast for this week. Thank you so much for listening if you did, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye.